3 reasons why you need hypnotherapy. The easiest way to reprogram your mind is through your subconscious. It's not like what you see on TV. It's more like a lovely guided meditation. It's 3 times more powerful than willpower alone. Trust your subconscious. It knows more than you do.
Hello, welcome to the Authentic Happiness Show. Tonight we're talking about the timeline theory and what everybody thinks about it. So this is a judgment-free zone, so anybody can say however they feel about it and free to do that. And nobody's going to down them about it. And it's just a conversation. It's interesting. Like, it's a weird concept. Like, how do we wrap our hands around it? And what do we think about it? How could it work for us? So, like, without further ado, let me bring on my friends and let's see what we come up with.
What up? I have a quick question for you. Did you say how do we wrap our hands around it?
Or our heads around it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said hands. I was like, yes. How do we wrap our hands around it? Okay.
So first, I want to ask everybody how they're doing. How are you guys? What's up?
I am tired. Susie and I were in the pool earlier.
We hung out today. That was nice.
The no makeup thing, but other than that, I'm good. How are you, Enzo?
Much better today. My traveling, I last week. Actually, it was starting in last week's show. I just had this awful, like, congested head cold, and basically just had a constant headache and ears kept popping and all of that stuff for like the last week. Just that travel crud. I was surprised because last year when I went to Contact in the Desert, I had this horrible cough and chest congestion after I got back home, just from being around people and stuff like that.
Right.
And
isn't that weird how that works?
Yeah. Do you think it could be from being in the car too much too?
I think it was just being around people that traveled from all over the place and all came to one location.
And new germs that you're not used to. And then also the change in elevation can affect like how your body is processing all those germs. So
yeah, that certainly didn't help spending the night in Gallup, New Mexico, the first night and at 5,400 feet.
Right.
And, you guys aren't that bad where you're at, but that's still higher. Like going from there to California and then to your place there is
right.
There's definitely a lot of altitude changes for me over a very short period of time.
Right. Yeah, I know Flagstaff is like, I think, Flagstaff's at 7,000 feet, Susie. Is that right? I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's higher up there. And I know my mom, hi, Bat Mom. My mom had trouble breathing when my dad took her up there. It makes sense. So did my dad. And it makes a huge difference, especially if you have like if you have asthma or anything like that. Elevation makes a difference.
That morning I left your guys' place, I stopped off at Flagstaff for gas, just to get a full tank to hit the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't notice the elevation, probably because I was mostly looking at the incredible number of homeless people with dogs that were shambling around early in the morning. Yeah, there were a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
We go over there for the cool weather.
So you drove right through. Oops, what did I do here? Sorry. If you drove through, did you take I-40 then?
Yeah. Just
okay.
Up from your place your dad's place up to Flagstaff, then hooked east from there, straight on through Albuquerque and into Texas.
So you drove through a whole bunch of, you drove through volcanic fields like a mug.
Like a mug.
Yep.
Like a mug. Yeah, there's a lot of volcanoes out that way. Did you notice anything about that part of from Flagstaff until into New Mexico? Did you notice or see anything that you thought was interesting?
Not Not especially. I think I passed by like the Petrified Forest area. That was one of those places that I would certainly want to stop off and spend some time at, just to check that out for sure.
Right.
There's always some amazing, looking mountaintops and scenery. That entire drive, just it really does look like a different planet sometimes.
Yes, it does. Huh?
What is that?
Right? Like the Painted Desert is crazy. And I remember being little and seeing like the mounds and thinking to myself, I just want to get out and touch those, because you couldn't tell like if they were sandy or if they were soft or if they were hard, like cement. And I remember my parents stopped one time and let me get out and touch it, and they're hard. And I was like, I don't know why I was surprised by that, but it was. Yeah,
it's sandstone, but it doesn't feel like sand.
Right. It's like feels like just like cement or somebody like
right.
Yeah, like kind of like cement or something. Whoa, Susie, you just disappeared. How'd you do that? Are you bent over?
Yeah, I'm trying to plug. I'm trying to
plug your camera in. Did that? You were like just there, and then you were not there, like that. Oh,
I love it when it's a little bit
more smoother than that's pretty good.
Whoa.
So I had a few highlights in my week this week. I was recognized and I was voted top 3 hypnotherapists in my city.
That's awesome.
Yay! So good. And then my other highlight of my week was my second belly dancing class. So I'm getting a lot out of that. It's like a really good release for me. It's fun. I feel great when I'm done, and I just love it. It's a good workout too.
And you guys, she has finger chingers. They're like chinger thingers. Yeah. Yeah. It is huge. It is huge. And she has a ching 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 like belt thing.
I do. I actually bought another. I got another one, Jara, a more noisy one, a more noisy skirt.
Did you get a more noisy one?
Yeah.
Oh, see, then you can let me borrow your other one, and I can go with you.
You can come to class with me.
Yay! Yeah. She learned how to walk into the veil, like they threw it up and then walk into it.
But elegantly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun, you guys. It's the best. I've always wanted to learn belly dancing, and now I'm really doing it. It's really fun. But what about you, Enzo?
What? You cut out.
Do you want to belly dance?
Oh, I have no. My belly dance is usually after a full meal, and I'm trying to back away from the rest of the food. So.
Yeah. So we are going to be talking about what's it called? Timeline theory. And because I've been watching that show Dark Matter. Have you seen that or heard about it, Enzo?
The sci-fi show?
Yeah, with the guy who's like in different versions of his world or whatever.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong show. I'm thinking of the sci-fi show where all the people wake up on the spaceship and they don't know who they are. And they're like,
it's not. Yeah, Dark Matter. There's only one season, and I think there's 8 episodes, so it just started like not that long ago. It has Jennifer Connelly in it, and like the girl with the blue eyes, the lady with the blue eyes.
Yeah.
And I like her because she was in the movie The Labyrinth. Remember that movie The Labyrinth? She's the dark-haired woman. Now she's a woman. In that movie, she was a teenage girl.
A girl.
Yeah, I just like her because she's from a movie from my childhood. So she's like Anthony Michael Hall, or like that's why Tony Stark is my favorite Marvel Iron Man. He's my favorite because he was in like Weird Science, and I love Robert Downey Jr.
It's going back a ways. All of Robert Downey Jr.'s properties. Yeah, Weird Science. He had the
Weird Science. Yeah. Yes. I love that movie, man. I love that movie. Yeah, I wasn't like my parents didn't say I couldn't watch movies, so I was allowed to see rated R movies from as long as I can remember. I remember being like 5 and seeing Rambo, and I was telling Susie that I had a vague memory of a movie like with a lady in a Minnie Mouse costume, I think, and like they were like smoking something, and her husband were all, "Oh yeah, that movie. That's I can't remember what movie you guys
I
said."
can't remember what it's called now. It's like the big something.
I don't know the Big Lebowski. I don't remember.
I can't
But
remember what it is.
I was like, "Oh, that's an actual movie. So that's an
So
actual."
she was
movie?
having a memory of an actual movie. It was an actual movie, not a dream.
Yeah. I was
And
like,
I would go to your house and watch the dirty movies. They weren't dirty; they were just rated R.
yeah, they were rated R. So like I saw Weird Science when I was little. Or do you remember that movie Zapped with Scott Baio?
Yes.
Do it's
And
like,
Heather, whatever her name was, there was like 8 Heathers in Hollywood at the time, and they were all looked
oh
the
right,
same.
Heather. There was like Heather Locklear. Heather.
Locklear? Yeah.
No, well, I don't know if she was in that movie, but it was
She was.
Scott Baio, and the curly headed guy was his friend,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
could do telekinesis. Remember, because they used to like.
Yeah, he spilled chemicals on himself during a lab
It was
experiment.
a
Yeah.
science experiment or something.
Right. Yeah. And then like all the movies with like what they call them, the Brat Pack, like Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, I
Yep.
think his name was,
Yep.
Molly Ringwald. Yeah.
Ali
They
Sheedy.
had good movies back then. Huh?
Emilio Estevez.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
All those
They had
Hughes
good
films were
movies.
great.
They
There
were.
was Sweet 16. There was
16
St. Elmo's
Candles.
Fire.
You mean 16 Candles?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sweet 16 Candles.
Oh, do you remember that one with where she got pregnant? What was that movie? What was it? For Keeps. That's what it is. That's what I was trying to think about that the other day. For Keeps. Yep. And then
there's a movie that I remember that nobody remembers. Let me see if you guys will remember. It's called Midnight Madness, and it was all these groups of teenagers, and they were on a scavenger hunt. And it's really old. But nobody remembers it. Yeah, my sister doesn't even remember it. She's the one that I watched it with.
Huh.
But it had that guy from Seinfeld, the big fat guy from Seinfeld in it. I can't remember who was the cute one now. It's starting to fade away from my memory. But yeah, no one else remembers that movie but me. And how about this other one nobody remembers but me? It has Jim Carrey, and he's a vampire, and it's called Once Bitten.
I remember that movie. I love that movie. Where it's the woman vampire. I totally forgot that was Jim Carrey though. I totally forgot about that. I love that movie. You saw that movie at my house. Because I used to watch that movie a lot.
Yep, because it had sex in it, and I wasn't allowed to watch it at my house.
Yeah. There's all this. It probably had boobs and stuff in it, probably.
Yeah, boobs and stuff.
Well, it's almost a required. Any film made like prior to 1985, it was almost had to have boobs in it at some point.
Right. And there was like, like my family, our family photo albums is like nothing but people mooning each other. Like that's what we grew up in. So they were like, I'm not even exaggerating or lying. Like there's a bunch of butts and people pulling people's pants down. So
that's so embarrassing. I didn't ever want anybody to do that to me, and I'm so glad I never got pantsed at school.
Depants? People tried to depants me all the time. That irritated me. I don't know why.
I know. It was a thing. I can't believe that was a thing. That's a horrible thing to do to someone.
It is horrible. But you know what? It never worked. It never worked because I am fast and I'm strong. So what?
One person do that to me, and it was in gym class. We were outside at the tennis courts, and I had a tennis racket in my hand. So they pulled my pants out and ran off. I just turned around and hucked it as hard as I could, and it shattered up against the wall.
Oh, wow.
You, what are you doing? It's like, I'm standing here with my pants around my ankles. What do you think I'm doing?
Wow. That, that is really messed up. People did that a lot in our school, huh, Susie? Like,
Yeah, it was
that
like
was
a
a
thing.
huge thing. And that is so wrong.
Yeah, I would feel very violated if I'm so glad it didn't happen to me, because I would have been like scarred for life.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was scarred by other things. Like, I remember handing like somebody a maxi pad once instead of money when I was at school. That was embarrassing. I thought it was like a $5 bill or something. It's like, oh crap,
I'm
that's
feeding this into the snack machine, but I'll try. Yeah.
right. Stuff like that happens to me a lot.
The timeline theory. The timeline theory suggests that every decision made or action taken creates a new timeline. That would make this a multiverse of parallel universes. So that's a pretty cool theory, I think. So by the choices you make and the mindset you have, it determines what timeline you're on. So every time you make a different choice or decision, you create a new timeline, which goes on. This is what the theory says, which goes on as you go on your timeline. And so as your vibration raises and lowers, you can jump into the other timeline. So if you're acting shitty, you're going to jump back into the shitty timeline. If you're acting super cool, you're going to make an even higher timeline for yourself. So that's the theory. And so what it means is that it's all being created right now and that it's constantly changing. So I can get behind that. That's okay. That's true.
My only question,
it's like, since everything is conscious, you shift as your conscious shifts. Does that make sense?
Right. But what happens when you shift out of that timeline to the person that's still left there? Do they just get really dumb? No, but who's in them? But who's in them? You know what I mean?
It's that you.
How are you and you and them at the same time?
Because you can be more than one place at one time, because it's a quantum universe.
Yeah, that's weird. This show is weird because it gets weird. I don't know, spoiler alert, but like it ends up being a multiple of the same person because of every decision that's made creates a new version.
With the many worlds theory. Yeah, with the many worlds theory, there's pretty much an infinite amount of universes where we're still having this same conversation, where the only thing is different is like my cup might be red instead of green, or we started 2 minutes earlier or something like that, but it's still the same conversation we're having. We're still the same people. We're still living the same lives and all that. But because there's an infinite amount, you can have just the tiniest change, and that's kind of okay. You can kind of slip past that and kind of ignore it. And that's one of those theories about what do they call that? Where you the Mandela effect, where when you slip into one of those, you're doing good for yourself, so you go into some like higher type. If there's a hierarchy to timelines, as we're talking about, where maybe it was it was spelled Berenstain Bears and not Berenstein Bears and things like that, where a lot of people get confused. But of course, there's no way to prove that that's how it was in the last dimension that I was in. You can't prove that, of course, because you're always kind of floating like a dial on a radio. You're sliding around your own timeline.
And I think you just said something about a hierarchy. I bet you there's not really a hierarchy necessarily, because in one world you could have like everything that the you in this world might think you want, right? But you don't have it, so you don't really know. And in that other world, you might have all that, but then be missing something. And so it's like, which world is better? They're just different, right? Sure. So
Susie and I were kind of talking a little bit about that during before the show, before you came on, is what's your favorite timeline that you envision for yourself? And and that's where I brought up that hierarchy thing, is like, what's good for you would be like a higher vibration or whatever you want to call it. And things where everything sucks is going to be much lower, kind of a thing where everything's gone wrong. And it can be like, if you say, well, I want that time where I was one number off from winning the lottery, where I did win the lottery when I was 18, let's just say. And that would change your entire life. That would change everything that you remember as yourself, where you got super rich and, you might have pissed it all away and lost it all, and you still got to go back to your crappy job, or you invested it all and became super mega rich and, into politics. Who knows? There's a million different variations for every decision that you make.
Right. For everybody. So like, that's why in the show, what's interesting is that they manage to, so what happens is a guy gets kidnapped from his own world by himself, like himself kidnaps him and puts him back in his world. And then he tries to take over. He tries to take over the guy's life or what have you. And somebody in the world that he's stuck in helps him figure out this is what's happening, and they go and they're trying to find his world that's his or whatever. And what's interesting is they keep going into these worlds that are the same city, but everything in the world is also slightly different. So they look themselves up and they see who they are, and all the same people are there. But like in one world, like somebody's like a scientist who's a millionaire, and in another world, he's like an alcoholic mechanic or whatever. But it's
I'm an alcoholic mechanic.
What's wrong with that?
So it's like
well,
don't make you a bad person. So it's like Sliders. There was a show on in the 90s called Sliders.
Oh, I think I remember that show too. Or hearing it. I never saw it, but
the guy had Jerry O'Connell had the remote control that would open up like a wormhole to this other parallel world where it was always San Francisco was where it originally started at.
Right.
I remember in the first episode where he's just experimenting with it a little bit, where he goes to where everything's exactly the same, and he goes out to drive around, and in that world, stoplights, red meant go and green meant stop. So he's like having to say it. Red means go, green means stop. He had to see it over and over so he wasn't crashing into people while he was out driving around while he's trying to get back up. But it's just those little tiny things, and that's what the show was about, because as they're going on this adventure, something happens to the thing where it's scrambled, where they can't get back to the original one. So the only way they could do it is just keep jumping from one world to the next, hoping to randomly get back to their original starting point eventually. So, but it was a great show. Great premise.
There could be, maybe there are people that have figured out how to do that. And that could even explain UFOs, in my opinion. That people could be jumping from other times or something, but they're coming from here, but they're just coming from another time. It's like, when are you coming from? Not where.
And the timeline and dimension thing aren't necessarily two different things, because once you create a new timeline, that kind of is a new dimension. That's a whole different place, where all the the basic like time travel tropes, where the Germans won World War II, and bombs were never dropped here or there, and these people survived and other people died. Things like that. Just this cascading effect of things and how it affects that timeline from that point. If you're the time traveler, if you've got your, DeLorean, you go up to 80 miles per hour, you prevent your parents from meeting in 1955 at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And
1.41 gigawatts.
I love that movie.
But it, like, say, Marty didn't, he failed, that Biff beat the crap out of him in the parking lot, and he never made it inside to change history back the way it was supposed to be that he remembered. He would still be there in 1955, and he would that whole, like the whole disappearing hand thing,
Right.
that's not how it would work, because that
No.
is now a closed off timeline that he can no longer access unless he can somehow, after the fact, get his parents to meet up and have kids and blah 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 blah.
Right.
But it would be a very different timeline than he remembered, which even when he did change it back to, you know, the correct version, it was still a little different when he got home, where
right.
his dad was a successful author, and, you know, Biff was
You
the
know
loser
what?
waxing the truck and all that stuff.
I wonder what would happen if he so like if, like you said, he didn't beat up Biff or whatever, and he wound up having to stay there, but let's say he did wind up getting his parents back together, but he also stayed there. Do you think if they had a baby that they would still have him? You know what I mean? Or like, do you think like
That's the thing, is because you've already interrupted what, you know,
right.
in your head, you know, your experience of what history is from Marty McFly's point of view, is 1985 point of view, because he had an older brother and an older sister, as I recall, because that's who disappeared first in the picture.
Right. Yeah.
And if they didn't meet, like, you know, if they didn't hook up to be a couple at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance that one night there in 1955, but he somehow managed to get him back later, that
it'd have been a different egg and a different sperm. Right.
You know,
so it could have been a different kid.
Right. So he might have had two older sisters, or maybe none. And, you know, maybe it was just the two kids, and then they never had a third, which would have been Marty, and things like that. It's just,
right.
when you start messing around with timelines like that, it gets messy fast, and it gets out of control very fast.
And then you also have to consider that we spend 1/3 of our lives in another world, in another state of consciousness, right? When we're dreaming or sleeping. Even if you don't remember your dreams, I'm pretty sure everybody is somewhere doing something and making decisions in your dreams, which probably somehow affect us in our waking life. Like somehow, it just probably does.
Under that many worlds theory again, where there's an infinite number, somewhere out there's a place where you only exist when you dream. Just
right.
An infinite amount of worlds there means somewhere out there that's exactly what's happening.
It feels like that, because I honestly feel like my dreams feel like I am going to another place. Like I feel like I have two places where I belong, or I don't know how to put it into words, but when I go to sleep, or even when I think about dreams, because my dreams are like memories more than they are. I don't know if everybody's dreams are like that to you guys, but like to me, my dreams feel like a memory. Like it doesn't feel any different than a memory. And I can remember tastes and sounds and things like that from my dreams. And I have this feeling like that feels similar to like when you think about a specific place or time. Like if you think about Cottonwood, Enzo, you're probably going to think about like when we were there, and it brings back like a certain feeling of when you were there at that time or whatever.
Great.
Right. And so like when I think about my dreams, even dreams that are scary, I get that, I have that familiar feeling like I'm going somewhere that I recognize, or I don't know, it's weird. It's just so strange. I feel like that there is another place that we go or something, because my dream experience is so vivid and has always been like that my whole life.
I almost never remember my dreams. I mean, there's some where I'll remember snippets of it. For a while, I remember I was having a recurring type dream where I could fly, but I was embarrassed to do it because it was a kind of a crappy way of flying. I could only move like at a walking speed. It wasn't like Superman.
Oh, that's cool.
All that stuff. But it's like, it would take me like 5 or 6 seconds to fly up to like the second floor of a building, you know, that kind of a thing. Even though that would still be freaking amazing, and everybody would be shocked and amazed. I was embarrassed.
That's interesting that you say that. That's interesting. You know why that interests me? Because I bet you if you would have gone, well, if you could remember your dreams, or if you tried to work on that, I bet you that you would kind of improve your flying. Like, if you ever want flying lessons,
Sure.
let me know.
Well, and I know I've mentioned this before, and I try not to repeat myself on all these shows, but there's only one time where I had like a super vivid dream where I couldn't tell the difference between reality when I woke up and the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And it did involve grays, where basically I
like
woke.
You got it, sir.
Is that what those grays are, like the gray colored aliens?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's these guys.
Oh yeah. Okay, but gray.
But where I basically I woke, I was actually, so when I was in the Air Force, I was traveling. I was at Morón Air Base, Spain, which I hated being at Morón Air Base, Spain, because it was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was usually a closed base. And the only time they'd open it up because it had this giant long runway, and NASA would come in there when the shuttle would launch, because that was the first abort landing area for when the shuttle took off and something happened, not explode,
right.
where it needed to make an emergency landing like immediately after takeoff. That's where it would go. That's where it would head for, because it had this such a giant runway. Other than that, it was usually closed, unless there was some kind of galactic, world emergency kind of thing, which is how I would always end up being there because of my job. But anyways, that's a whole other story. But I would end up being there, and I just, because there was never any facilities, the chow hall was always closed. We're like going to the little like shopette, which is sort of like a quickie mart kind of a thing without gas pumps, and buying like, I guess I'll buy a jar of peanut butter and this thing of crackers, and that will be dinner tonight, kind of a thing.
Oh wow.
But anyways, I was there in their building, which is like a hotel on the base, and I wake up at like 3 a.m, and there's 2 grays right at the foot of my bed. And of course, I freak out. I throw the blankets off. I jump up and I flip the light switch on, and there's nothing in the room. So, no, I just saw these things. And I see like movement out of the corner of my eye. And right next to where I was standing, there's like a little closet area where you could hang clothes up, but it didn't have a door on it. It was just this little alcove area. And I had a uniform hanging up there, and there was a gray like peeking around the corner of the uniform.
How scary.
And this is where I was like, okay, this has to be a dream, because I can't imagine I would ever act like this in that situation. I mean, you don't know how you're going to act in that situation.
Right.
Is I shoved the uniform off the side, it's on a hanger, so it slid down at the end of the pole. And I said, and again, because it was such a corny line, it has to have been a dream. I was like, you're not playing your mind tricks on me. And before I could say this time, which I was going to say, I see movement out of behind me. It's the other gray, because there were 2. Next thing I know, I'm laying in bed, and the lights are off, and I had the windows open because in Europe they don't have air conditioning. It was hot. And we had high winds. We were expecting high winds. That's how I ended up getting stuck there. It was going to be too windy for us to fly a local mission. Right there again. So they would have to have like landed somewhere else because the winds were going to be high. So we just spent the night. And the wind was blowing so hard that the curtains in front of the window were almost straight out against the ceiling. Just
oh wow.
And I wake up to that, and I'm looking around the room for these grays, because I just saw them in my head.
Right.
And I leap out, I flip on the light. I'm looking in every corner, under the table, under the couch, under the bed, and every drawer in the bathroom, looking outside. No grays. And I'm just sitting on the edge of the bed holding my head. I was like, I can't believe this just happened. What the hell just? And then I remembered, wait a minute. I shoved my uniform out of the way to get to the one, and that was the other thing that was bothering me is I was ready to pound this little dude. I was getting ready to just smash.
You beat him an alien, Susie.
and I look over in the little alcove area, which was a closet without a door, and my uniform was still right in the middle where I'd left it hanging originally. It's like, okay, it was just a dream. It didn't move. I can't imagine, these aliens, like, fried my brain to forget everything and then remember to move that back over in the middle.
I don't know.
But
That
I didn't
makes
go back
me want to think it was real. That was like that.
For my own sanity at the time, I was like, okay, it was just a dream. But I didn't go back to sleep, and I did not turn the lights back off that night, that whole night. I just sat there, just like looking around the room, expecting to see that little around the corner thing, and because that really fucking freaked me out. I was
Now,
losing.
do you you don't think that maybe it wasn't wind that were blowing the curtain? I know it was supposed to be windy, but maybe they were using that as a way to come so they would think that nobody would notice.
They were blasting off outside. It was blowing the curtain.
Or something.
Believe me, I've gone through all this stuff, and I see Bat Mom, the guys in the base are messing with you. I don't think so, because everyone, it was 3 a.m. We were all pretty tired, and in that particular situation, I was kind of like the boss of my guys that were with me. So,
was there other guys in that room with you?
No, it was just
no,
me.
it was just you.
Because the way the structure was and all that stuff, I got my own room, and then my two maintenance assistants, they were paired up in a room that was like down the hall. But it was not my guy.
You saw something like that day that would make you dream that? Like, why would you dream that at that time?
I don't know. I mean, I've always, had an interest in the UFOs and stuff like that, in a sci-fi kind of way. I never took it super seriously, that to expect to be accidentally spending the night in the middle of nowhere, Spain, and have grays pop up in my room.
Right. I think you saw something real. I think you saw something real, but I don't know if it was great. Like if it was necessarily aliens, but I think especially for a person that doesn't typically remember your dreams, for your dream to be that vivid.
Right.
I don't know.
It was vivid. It was the thing that really, I think, bothered me the most was my reaction to it all, where I was ready. It was just the things that I was saying, that I heard myself saying. You're not playing your mind tricks on me. And before I could say this time, I'm waking up again. And I was ready to pound this dude, little dude.
Yeah, why were you going to say this time? Like, are they playing mind tricks on you before or something?
Well, that's the thing, is I don't remember other times before. How would I know to say that? That's
well,
why
maybe that you did remember.
That's why I kind of lean more on it had to have been a dream. Because
you must have that experience in your dreams and not remember it for you to say this time. Maybe
that was subconscious.
Right. Like, so maybe maybe they only visit you when you're sleeping, dude, and you just don't remember your dreams very often, so you just don't remember it. And that's why you said this time, because that version of your consciousness remembers them.
They control your mind.
I mean, if I was sitting here just messing around on the computer or doing something like that by myself, and a gray walked into the room, be like, "Hey, you could have knocked, but hi." I would certainly want to strike up a conversation. I would think. I mean, that's what rational me would say.
Right, but I think that you reacted in a way that is how was real. Because
it was. I was level 10 violent. This was an ass whooping that was about to occur.
You didn't like them.
Apparently not. But the only thread of reality I have to hang in on of that was that uniform was still in the middle of the little rack there by itself. Hadn't moved, that I distinctly remember shoving out of the way so I could clearly beat the crap out of this gray. And that's kind of it.
Well, maybe you were inside a different reality in the same room, and you popped into that other thing and then popped back out or something.
But that's the thing, is that how did I know to be mad about it?
Because
you've had dreams I think you've had dreams like that, or something's happened to you before in your dreams for you to react like that, in a way that would be.
It's one thing to be embarrassed about, only crappily flying, in a dream
That's funny.
versus this graze at the foot of my bed and I'm gonna whoop his ass. That kind of that's I feel that's kind of a far difference there.
Well, yeah, but it's a natural reaction though. It's also a natural reaction to be embarrassed about your flying. That also makes me feel like that was real too.
Well, I'm sure because of what I was doing at that time, and I'm sure Susie, being the professional she is I could do a lot of things a lot of people couldn't do, but I didn't want to make them look dumb or incompetent because I had other abilities. Basically, because I was kind of good at my job back in the day,
Right.
and I would certainly maybe throttle back a little bit to let to not make other people look like
very good analyzing of your dream there.
And that's how I self-analyze that dream is I have this amazing ability, but I don't want to show it to anybody because while it is better than average, it's not like Superman level.
Right.
Which is
well, because in my dreams about flying, I actually had like actual real experience and emotion, and like I remember being afraid when I first started to fly. I was like uncertain of it. It was like scary, and I would try to fly from like tree to tree or like, you know, from thing to thing. That I always made sure that I had like things around me. Like I wouldn't just fly on a street without something close to grab onto it or whatever. And I started learning and like trusting my flying or whatever, and then I got better at it because when I first started flying in my dreams, I flew like I was swimming in the air.
I've heard that before. People saying that
I would go up. I would have to push down like that to go up, but then like, and I actually don't fly very often. I do fly, but not very often in my dreams now. Now in my dreams, I was telling Susie, I think I have a new dream ability. So I can manipulate like water in my dreams now. So I'm like a water bender. But I got really good at flying, and I was able to like just like go up, and then I got so good I was like zooming. I was like Google Earth, like double clicking on things, but not clicking, but like.
That's what happens when you Google Earth and like have something that disagrees with you, and then you fall asleep.
Right?
And you eat something crazy, and then you Google Earth.
Oh yeah, that happens to me, dude. If I eat fried chicken before I go to bed or pizza, it makes me have crazy weird dreams. Yeah, I don't know why, especially fried chicken. Fried chicken gives me the craziest dreams for some reason. I don't know what it is. There must be some kind of hormone released or something in fried chicken. I don't know.
Do you not eat a lot of fried
I feel like I had a dream about a different timeline. So it wasn't too long ago.
No, maybe I don't eat a lot of fried food, but you had a dream about a timeline?
Yeah, like I had a dream that I lived on at Sunny Slope. That's a different part of town. It's not too far. It's just over there. That I lived in Sunny Slope, and that I drove a white car, and that I was me, except for I was like a different type of me. Like I was I was like a crackhead. I was like some kind of weirdo, and like or maybe I wasn't a crackhead. I didn't see myself do crack, but I was just like all crazy, like just like just doing weird things that I don't do, and living in a weird place that have never lived. And it was me, and it was a different car, and I was like running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and that's what I was dreaming about. But I knew that was me, so I feel like I was dreaming a different timeline.
No, I have dreams like that. Like I was telling my husband earlier, because he was watching a video where they were looking at like a house, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like one of the houses that we've lived in before in my dream," because like I've had dreams where we're like in a specific house or whatever, but it's not our house, but it's so detailed, and I always wonder, like it's weird how our brains put together such detail for things that we've never actually seen, And I was telling my husband, I always try to, for some reason in my dreams, like that, like where I'm in a house that I don't want to wake up or I want it to be mine or whatever. I always try to find something to bring back with me. Like that's going to work. I don't know why I do that. It's like not even a thing that makes any sense.
You're trying to grab Freddy Krueger's hat and bring it back into the real world.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to bring. I'm like, I could just grab, I don't know. Like I try to find things and that doesn't even make sense. I don't know why I do that, but I do. I do. So far it hasn't worked. I haven't brought anything back with me. So yeah. Wouldn't that be weird if I woke up with something that wasn't mine? Gosh, that's
where
strange.
did this come from?
Right? That'd be so weird. I bet that's happened to somebody somewhere at some point in time.
Oh, I'm sure it has. Somebody
I
that's
know
like
things
walking
I've
on the beach
seen.
and they wake up with like sand in the bed and stuff like that.
Right? Oh, that reminds me of Pet Cemetery. Ugh, that movie scares me. Susie, are you frozen? I think she might be frozen.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's like oh, we lost her. Scary movies from back then in the 80s were like I think so much more scary than movie. Well, now I can't even watch scary movies now because I just can't. But I used to watch them a lot when I was a kid. And Pet Cemetery, I hate that movie. I hate that movie.
Yeah, that's a rough one. The time frame that came out, I had a nephew that looked a lot like the little kid that gets hit by the truck.
Oh, right.
I mean, a lot like that kid. And it's like, no, that's just too much. I can't deal with it.
that movie's like not even that guy, that ghost guy, Pat. Ugh. I don't know.
Pascal.
Yes, I know his name. I just can't say it out loud. Fred Munster was in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fred Gwynn, man, he was actually really good.
I know.
That awful Maine accent.
I like that guy.
Death is better. It's like, oh.
What about what Donald talked about for dreams?
Fever dream, yeah. So fever dreams are crazy. Hallucinate, yeah. If you have a high fever, I've never had a high fever where I've had any kind of a weird dream, but
I did.
My dreams are just like that.
Remember when I was a little girl and my mom had all those dolls pinned on the wall, like for like a decoration? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah.
So I had a really one time, and all those dolls came to life.
Oh, I used to have dreams like that. I used to have dreams like that where the doll, because I had dolls like that in my room too.
You did. We did. It was like a thing back then. That's what they did.
Yeah, I had the kid sister doll, and her little brother was like, he looked like Chucky. He looked like Chucky. It was my kid. What was it called? My Little Buddy and my kid sister.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember the kid sister?
I remember the like little buddy thing where like
My Little Buddy.
It taught you how to do like buttons on their clothes and stuff like that. Is to teach you that. I remember that.
Yeah, I had, and then I had like a black Raggedy Ann and Andy. Somebody made me. Yeah, remember they were the dolls that were like up on my shelf, up on the wall.
Yeah, those are so creepy. A Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls are creepy to me.
Yeah, I had a lot of those, and then I had like, I don't know, those porcelain dolls freak me out, man. Those porcelain dolls are scary.
I'm looking up right now what a fever dream is, like why it happens.
Well, if you have a high fever, you start to hallucinate.
Yeah. That's where you really are mixing what's really happening with your dream world, and it's just a kaleidoscope mess of realities smashing together.
I remember once my son, they told me that he had H1N1, and they put him on, what's it called? It's the antiviral. Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. But anyway, one of the side effects, right, when I'm reading this medication, it said that a side effect, especially in children, was hallucinations. And so he was probably 7, and I give him just one dose of it. And like a little while later, he's like, "Mommy," and I said, "Yeah," and he was like, I think I'm hearing somebody or something. He's like, somebody is telling me that I'm hungry and to go and tell my mom to make me a sandwich. And I was like, I said, okay. I said, well, is it?
I do that when I'm awake. What do you, this on?
I know, right? I was like, well, are you hearing it? Like, I said, is it just your thoughts? I said, like, are you hearing yourself say, I'm hungry, I'm going to go ask my mom to make me a sandwich? And he was like, no, it said, you're hungry, go tell your mom to make you a sandwich. And I was like, huh, okay, we're not going to take any more of that.
Actually, I remember this was many years ago. I used to smoke a lot more than I do now. Actual like, cigarettes and cigars and pipes and all that stuff. Actual tobacco versus digital tobacco today. But
Digital tobacco.
I stopped for a while because they offered a program for free there at the base where they'd give you like the nicotine patches and stuff to kind of like wean you off of the nicotine. And I had the craziest ass dreams with that nicotine patch because you would put it on your arm and you would leave it on there for like days at a time. So you're sleeping with nicotine getting like blasted into your system.
Wow.
And I had there was the one that I kept going back to where I would like only be able to sleep like an hour. So as soon as I'd get into REM sleep, I'd start having this dream and I'd wake up, where there was just like this giant, like 8 to 10, 12 foot like lady that was like super fat that was like basically trying to molest me is really what it was. And I was like constantly running. I'm like diving out of windows and running through houses and just trying to do anything to escape. And she was always like right behind me trying to grab me. And,
how funny.
But I've never had anything like that before or since. But when I was wearing that patch, at least like the first, because they have like different levels of nicotine that gets released into your system.
Right.
And you start off with like the heavier one at first, and then like the next week it's a little less and a little less, and so on and so on. And that first week was I couldn't handle the nightmares. I slept very little. Only like a couple hours at a time for like that first week.
That is so interesting. Like, I wonder why our brains
She-Hulk was trying to grab me.
It's so weird what our brains can create. It's and it's so real.
Your high fever causes your brain to activate the fight or flight response, and it's released. How do you say that?
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit.
Leading to heightened emotional responses. So it's the temperature is triggering things to do stuff.
I would wear the patches, eat the lozenges while smoking. Mom, wow. Didn't that make you nauseous? Gosh, it's like I remember, I'm not really a smoker, but I remember I tried to smoke a little bit of a cigar once, and I didn't know that you're not supposed to inhale it. Like, I didn't know that. And so I was trying to smoke it like it was like a joint or something. And I went to come in and to walk in from the balcony, and I turned around and I took a step and I passed out. I was like, boom. It knocked me out. So tobacco is nothing nice, man.
That's funny.
You got to be careful with that.
Nice. I remember in high school, I tried chewing tobacco one time, and so my friend told me how to do it. And we put it in my lip, and then I'm on the whole other side of the room, and she said I'm going like this, and then all I remember is her coming over to me, grabbing me, and going, "Come on, come over here," and then she's all spit it out.
Yeah, I remember Dawn tried chewing tobacco, and it got all stuck in her braces, and then she was all like,
"Oh no!"
Yeah. Yep.
That's the worst possible combination: chewing tobacco and braces. Ew.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, I never did try chew because I knew it would make me throw up. The first time I tried cigarettes, it made me throw up too. I don't like throwing up. I hate throwing up. I hate it.
I hate throwing up too.
Well,
I mean,
we're
it's not
talking,
cry. I
I just
cry.
hate sleeping. I hate it. It's,
I like sleep. I mean, I enjoy sleeping and I enjoy my dreams. Like I really like the fact that I have such
Red Man.
Red
Sorry.
Man was my wait, what? What's Red Man?
Red
The
Man's
type of tobacco.
chewing tobacco. Yeah, that's the
He
the kind
turned
in the
green.
big classic pouch, and you keep tucked in your back pocket. You take out the big giant.
Oh, right.
prawn. Yeah, yeah.
Isn't tobacco medicinal though? Also, it's like
Yeah.
the Native Americans used it for medicine, didn't they? I don't know for
Yeah.
what. I don't know what it
And,
heals or
and,
whatever.
and they
Um,
still use it for like
medicine now.
gifting and stuff like that. Yeah.
I like the way it smells. Isn't that what smells good about like, or is
Kind
that
of.
just because they add
Pipe
stuff to
tobacco
something?
smells good, like the old man tobacco.
That's what I used to do with smoke a pipe because no
Oh.
one ever bitched about smoking a pipe because I started
'Cause it
with
smelled good.
cigars. I skipped right over that silly cigarette filter nonsense. I went straight to cigars when I would smoke. But everyone would bitch about how bad cigars stunk. So I fine, I'll smoke a pipe. Nobody bitches about that. And people would actually not mind it. I would have a Cheech and Chong cloud in my little dorm room of me smoking a pipe, but everybody be okay with it because
It smells good. My Uncle Si used to smoke a pipe, and I liked it.
I used to do a cherry vanilla type blend that I always
But
smoked,
that
and
one
everybody
smells
loved it.
good.
Bat Mom said Chew was like instant drunk, not buzzed, but bowed to the porcelain, got drunk. Yeah, that's every person I knew that tried Chew. That was their experience. Yep.
So before we go, I want to ask you guys one thing, and I'll go first. But I want to ask you guys, what does your highest timeline look like? So to explain it, I will go first and say what my highest timeline would look like. And if I was in my which I think I'm in my highest timeline right now, my highest timeline would be having a job that I love doing and having no pressure financially. And the best part of my highest timeline would be everybody in this planet would have a higher consciousness that would eliminate a lot of the bad shit that happens. Like if everybody had a higher consciousness, there wouldn't be murder because you're conscious, wouldn't do that. So like a lot of things would be eliminated if everybody could raise their consciousness. So that's what my highest timeline would be like. And that would be my perfect world if everybody could just be like fucking not an asshole. So how about you guys? What's your highest timeline?
I don't know. I don't think I can answer that because I don't really.
What does your best day look like? Like if you were to have a perfect day, what would it look like?
Well, a perfect day would be I would be with my husband and my kiddos by the river looking at rocks. So simple.
And that would be your highest timeline.
I can testify that is how she would spend the perfect day. That is for sure.
Yes, it is. Yep, he can, and I would. That's exactly what I would do. I don't need I don't know. I don't really have any huge goals. Like
that answer is the perfect answer. That is the highest timeline. That is perfect. Yeah, that's it. That's what I was looking for.
It wouldn't be their highest timeline at all.
Right. And that's the thing is,
that.
everyone has their own personal thing. And
right.
For my answer to the question is I'm kind of living it right now. There's a few things that I'm working, as goals to achieve and things like that. But that's part of the struggle is there are certainly things like in my past, Jara, don't start crying again about my past. But
I know Enzo made me cry.
Is there are some things that I wish had gone differently as a kid, but or throughout my entire life. However, these are the things that make you who you are today. So that's all of those things compounded makes you who you are now. Right. So I'll pull a Kirk from Star Trek V. It's like I need my pain. It makes me who I am. That
was really good. I like that. That was a good impression.
There's a man on the wing. There's
That's good.
William Shatner is a damn treasure. I'll give him that. But anyways, it's one of those things that everybody has those. Man, I wish I could have. Wish I could have changed things and things like that. And it's one of those things that you can't. Because if you do, that's going to change who you are right now. If you had won that $1 million lotto, 10 years ago, or like when you were a kid, you were like rich right off of the bat, as a kid getting out into the world. So you didn't know how to appreciate actually earning something, working an 8-hour day for, or a 12-hour day, even for, 7 days a week, and earning that money and saving it up and things like that. There's a struggle there that builds its own level of character. And that is what defines all of us, is by all of those challenges that you had to overcome in your life. That's what makes you you. Mm-hmm. And I can't go back and say that I would change any of that, because I would be a totally different person. If I'd won that lottery back when I was 18, let's just say, then I'd have been some spoiled rich brat kind of a guy that wouldn't know the cost of $1 and would be just either I'd be flat broke, which is probably the most likely outcome, or I have invested it and made even more money and then just been stupid rich and not even know what to do with myself. Because
I bet there's no timeline, Enzo, where you don't have money and you're not organized. And you don't have a lot of miles on your car. I don't know.
And that's the thing, is all of those things affect how that works. All right, if I want this to work, I have to be super organized and make sure this happens and this happens and this happens, and deal with when things change, because they always do, is how you can maneuver around it and overcome all of those obstacles in your life. It's one of those things that is this my best timeline? I'm sure I've come out more on top than where I currently am. But I'm 56, full-blown retired since 2009, and I've got a lot of great friends that I can go by and visit, and we can go hang out and look at rocks in the streams, and we can go check out ancient structures and from the Native American peoples.
7,000 miles on his car. That's crazy.
On a 2011, yeah.
I know. That's crazy.
Never had anywhere to go until now. So it's one of those things that I feel like people should think more about, that line ahead from where you're at, because there's not a lot you can do to change. I mean, we can all certainly go talk about, if only I'd done this, and only if I'd done this many years ago. I mean, sure. When back in the 90s, I was kind of seeing a girl who lived in California. She worked for a hedge fund manager, money guy in Los Angeles at the time. And it's like, so is he always like giving you like stock advice? And she's like, he won't shut up about it. Really? What is he telling you? He tells you, invest every penny you got into Yahoo. I was like, the search engine? How the hell is that going to make any money? That's stupid.
Oh,
no. So she's
If I had listened to the advice, I'd have been a gazillionaire probably by now. Mm-hmm. But it's certainly one of those things where you have to learn from that, is because many years later, in 2008, when the stock market crashed, all of it crashed in 2008, and I had some money that I could sink into a stock. I bought 10,000 shares of Sirius XM radio stock. I mean, they got satellites in orbit. They're not going to lose. They're going to come back. It's just everything crashed all at the same time. It's not like they're going to lose money. And I bought them for like 37 cents a share. So it was only like
wow.
$3,700 I had invested in, and I sat on it for like 10 years. When I finally cashed out about 9 years later, I paid off what I owed on my house. I paid off the rest, any other bills that I had. I
Wow.
covered the taxes, and I still had like $2,500–3,000 left over for pocket change for me to go piss away on something stupid.
That's cool. That's smart.
That was kind of like, that was like the last thing that I had. That was the last piece of debt that I had. So even though I didn't invest in Yahoo back in the 90s, like, was certainly served up in front of me and I scoffed away at, I saw another opportunity later on in 2008 when everything, the entire stock market crashed for something that I knew would eventually go back up over time.
Right.
And
right.
I was, so.
All three of us? Oh, thanks, Bat Mom.
That was sweet.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
Likewise. Y'all seem like you're pretty okay yourselves. It'd be cool to meet people in person. Maybe someday.
It was very cool to meet the Enzo in person.
I'll be on a timeline where I own my own stream, guys. That would be a really good timeline. It's an old land that has a river.
A timeline where someone sells you their lightly used 2011 Tacoma for you to turn into your dream vehicle and travel the country.
Right? I know. Enzo's driving my truck. Wait, what is that? Oh, okay. I get it. Sorry.
GameStop a couple of years ago would have been the thing to buy.
Oh, right? No kidding.
If you bought GameStop back when everybody was locked up in their house and afraid to go outside a few years ago, that would have been the thing to do.
Yeah, I had a very small part in a movie when I was in my early 20s, and they asked me to come back to be in more of a movie, and I was not at a good time in my life, and so I said no. So I don't regret at all, because I have my children, and I love my life where it's at, and I like who I am as a person. But I always wonder if I would have said yes to that, if that would have led to something at all or whatever. Gosh. And now that I know the things I know, I mean, no offense to anybody out there who is famous or an actor, but now that I know the things that I know, I'm super glad I'm not an actor or an actress, because that's a hard life, I think.
Right, because they're like all crazy over there.
I think their life is a lot more difficult than what they let on. Let's just put it like that. And to me,
I knew a guy when I was in the Air Force that grew up in Southern California. Him and his brother did stunt work in Hollywood. What was the Mel Gibson film where he no, where he's in World War II and his plane crashes, and then he like gets involved in an experiment where he basically goes into suspended animation for like 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is.
Something like that.
I don't remember what that movie was, but he did a bunch of the stunts for like the World War II segment of that, where the plane crashes and there's people diving out of the way. He told me this crazy thing where he would only trust his brother to do it, where his brother is driving a convertible vehicle in downtown LA, and they do the gag where he's like gets blasted through like a glass window on the side of a building, but it's, it's all candy glass is what they call it, fake glass that shatters. But it's like on the third floor where he falls out, basically gets blasted through this window on the third floor, and then lands in the back seat of this car that his brother's driving. And it's one of those things you can only do it once. It's not like there's no like CGI or anything like that when he was a kid. And it wasn't even for a movie, because apparently they do that a lot they used to do that a lot, where they would film like wacky stunts like that, or like guys on motorcycles doing, and then they would auction it off, kind of a thing, to movie theaters. We're like, oh,
just
that's
the footage,
we'll buy it, and they would add it into a story. and
Ooh, cool.
nobody ever
That's
bought
a
it.
good idea.
But
Sorry.
they did this crazy stunt where he's on third floor of this building, is blasted like somebody shot him, kind of a thing, where he's wearing like a suit jacket and stuff, blasted through the window, falls backwards out into the back seat of this convertible as it's speeding by on the street below, which his brother was driving, and stuff like that. And he's like, my neck hurts a little bit. You're fine. Shut up. Did we get the shot? Yes. Okay, good. He was like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to join the military where it's safer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like when I watch movies, especially like movies before CGI and everything, it's like they're really blowing that stuff up. Being an actor would be scary. I'm sorry, but that'd be terrifying. Well, like nowadays, there's so much action in movies, and if they're really shooting guns, but they're blanks, and they're really blowing things up, and there's all these pyrotechnics, I would have PTSD from being an actor. Like, to be honest with you, that, and they do want you to get into things for real when you're acting. Like, they do. So, like, I don't know.
A lot of those like action heroes from like the 90s and stuff like that there's a reason you don't like what's his name that did all the Mummy movies?
Brendan Fraser?
Yeah. There's a reason you don't see him around anymore, because he did a lot of his own stunts, because that's what you did back then.
Right.
He got pretty messed up on some of those stunts, and now he's like got addicted on painkillers and got into a lot of problems, and then it compounds after a while of getting into that kind of a thing where you're just shoveling pills back and stuff like that, trying to act like everything's cool when it's not.
Right.
And that's why you didn't see him for the longest of time. He's been on a few things here and there the last few years, kind of making a comeback for himself.
And they don't care either. Like,
yeah, that's it.
Because I started to get into modeling a little bit, and like, they don't care if you're uncomfortable or if you're hurting. They just want to get what they want to get. And like, they literally don't care. They don't care.
As far as like, Hollywood is especially cruel to young women, because you have, as a young lady in a film, you have a very finite, very small window of opportunity to become a big superstar.
Right.
Because you've got your mid to late 20s when you first start getting into it, and you start getting up into your upper 30s, you're out of it. Because you start, so a lot of women, I'll say, start losing their looks a little bit. They're not as pretty as they used to be. So it's just there's such a tiny window of opportunity for Hollywood starlets, kind of a thing. It's really unfair, because guys, they start getting a little gray around the temples and stuff like that. It makes them look
better looking.
It's like, yeah,
right. My husband, I'm so jealous. He gets better looking as he gets older. Meanwhile, I'm over here, not gracefully aging. It is, guys, that is true. But they're also just hard on. I remember going to like an audition at I think it was called the Howard Johnson, Susie. It was like over by Little America, and I had to wear a bathing suit or whatever. And they told me that I needed to work on losing some of the fat around my belly. And like, if ask Susie how tiny I was in high school, I was so small.
You're tiny now.
I am, but I was even tinier then. And so it was like, but because I had like a little tiny, like little pooge or whatever, they didn't like that. And I was like, are you serious?
It's ridiculous how women get treated in Hollywood. It's pretty awful.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't actually go down that route. I thought that it would be cool, but no, there's no way I'd let my kid be an actor. There's no way. Nope, not happening.
It is one of those things to make it work. You've got to be it's like anybody that's like good at any kind of sports. in high school, are you really going to make it to, the NFL or, basketball, any, whatever sport it is? Are you really going to make it to the majors to get the giant money? Because that's what it's like showing up in, the classical, Midwestern rube, getting on the Greyhound to go to Hollywood to become a big movie star,
Right.
straight off of the bus kind of a thing. It just doesn't happen. And because there's a lot of other people doing the exact same thing, and you've got to stand out. You've got to get that lucky break, really, where you get seen somehow. And
Right.
It's very, very rare. There's people out there that, of course, they do make it to the NFL and the NBA and things like that, NHL, where, they use their abilities to move on, and they get paid a lot of money when they're really good. Save that money, because you get one injury and you're done.
Right.
And the same thing goes for Hollywood. You get in 2 or 3 crappy movies, they're not going to have you back, kind of a thing.
Right. I always tell people I peaked as a kid. My level of coolness and like I peaked it when I was about 12. I was like the coolest kid ever, and then it's just kind of downhill from there.
I feel coolness is a sense of being that you can be cool no matter what, and
I was probably not even cool to other people. It's my definition of cool.
If we were to pull an 18-year-old in, off the streets right now, and it's like, hey, are these people cool? They're like, no, they're all old nerds,
Right.
I don't know. I think
like that.
Some of them would think we're cool. I think 18-year-olds would think all of us were cool if they chilled with us.
I don't know. They might chill with us for a minute to not hurt our feelings.
When I was at Contact a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to a lot of people that were there was very much a younger tint to most of the folks that were there. A lot of people that it was their first time ever being at any kind of UFO convention, kind of a thing like that ever before. It's just cool. That they had seen something on the news, or, oh my gosh, they're talking about UFOs and aliens at, in, the Congress. They're having, congressional meetings about it. And most people that were there, they've experienced something weird in their life and they want more answers. That's where most people get into it. And I talked to a ton of people. There was certainly like a younger couple I spoke to that had a super weird orb experience at Joshua Tree, which is not that far away from where Contact is held. And they had video of it. And
was it near a mountain?
Well, sort of. There was they saw like orbs up in the sky. They thought they were like satellites at first, but then they're like zigzagging around and doing loops and stuff like that. And they're like, that's not a satellite. Satellites, I don't think, do that. But one of them started like dipping lower in the sky, and because it's just like a sphere in the sky, a very tiny pinpoint, they didn't really have any perspective of how close it was.
Oh, okay.
They have video of one as it's going. They thought it was going like over the horizon. It was going far away. And when it gets to like where that line, there's like a mountain that was like a mile or so away from them. It dips down and it goes in front of that. So it's much closer than what they thought. And the girl lost her shit. She freaked out because that means that this thing that they think is like way up in the stratosphere is right there.
Right.
He was like, whoa, no, screw this. We're going inside. Going inside right now. She lost it.
Right.
They go inside, and because around that time, all of them seemed to start getting lower. And they went inside because they were renting a B&B kind of a thing.
Airbnb?
Yeah. And they went inside. They like locked the doors, the whole works. The girl was losing it. She was totally losing her mind. They described these orbs as being like a couple inches wide. They came like
inside, huh?
No, they went around the windows like they were looking for a way inside.
How freaky! I've heard other people
and
talk about those.
it would like zip around to like the opposite side of the house where a different window was, and it would just kind of like go around the edges and move around. And after like about like they said about the girl was like, it went on forever. The guy was like, it was like 15 minutes. They all kind of like just drifted off out into like the woods or back into the sky or whatever it was, but they were just gone.
So what are
weird.
they? What are orbs? What is that?
Well,
a lot of people have different theories. Some people think it's an electromagnetic phenomenon of some sort. I think though that if that shows some kind of intelligence, it's like looking in the windows. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. What have you heard?
Well, as far as just orbs as a phenomenon, just tiny little self-illuminated little globes that kind of float around, usually a few inches to maybe 4 or 5 inches big, just little orbs, little globes kind of floating around that are illuminated from the inside. It's not like you can only see them with a light or whatever it is. No, they're projecting their own light. Is seen in ghost encounters, cryptid encounters, and UFO encounters.
Right. They're also seen a lot of times near areas that have certain electromagnetic activity and mountains slash volcanic activity.
Areas that have a lot of volcanic activity, a lot of earthquake type activity, like near fault lines. A lot of like, because there's that's what like spook lights is what they're commonly called in areas, different parts of the country where you just see these orbs just kind of floating around.
Ley lines.
Ley lines, the whole thing. There's something going on that
underground,
all of it, as far as orbs go, because there's people that have gone out like Bigfoot. They see a Bigfoot and then they see an orb. Or vice versa. Some people say that.
I think it has to do with stuff that's going on too underneath us, under the ground. Enzo, how we were looking at Antarctica on Google Earth, and we saw the truck that was up on those trash cans. Yeah. I found more of that area. It's so weird. It looks like it's in a part of Antarctica where they found some ruins, right? It looks like they have literally put these antennas or something, that field of antennas or whatever is like on top of pile, like it looks like ruins, like piles of like rubble or whatever. And they have not just that truck, they have all kinds of stuff up on these trash cans, and I'm like, what is going on?
That's really weird.
It is weird. I'm like, what are they doing there? What are all those antennas, and why do they have everything on off the ground like that?
For the folks in the audience, the picture we're talking about is, we were just on Google Earth, kind of like messing around in Antarctica. And there was a very clear image. It's not like it was like super far away. I mean, you could have, if there was a license plate on it, you could have read it on this large truck that wasn't it like a.
It was like a crane, like a little miniature
crane, bucket truck kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they had 55-gallon drums on the ground that were underneath all 4 tires. So this thing was picked up and put on so that the tires were sitting on top of these 55-gallon drums.
Yeah.
Well, one, I'm surprised that just 4 55-gallon drums could support a truck like that. Because I mean, it wasn't like a gigantic truck. I mean, it was
a
big
lighter tires, though. The tires were good size.
But as far as like the bulk of the truck, the metal parts of the truck, it wasn't like what you would expect to see, like something like a cherry picker kind of a thing where somebody's going up and working on the pole kind of in your area, your electrical lines and stuff like that. It wasn't quite that sturdy. It was a little lighter than that, but still, I was shocked that 4 regular looking 55-gallon drums were supporting this thing.
Yeah,
and
that's weird.
I can't imagine what it would be in the middle of Antarctica, why you would do that, other than a gag while the guy went into the bathroom. You just happen to have a crane and you lift it up and throw it under there, and just like the guy comes out, like, what the F?
Right.
Kind of a thing.
They had these big metal, like, they looked like, I don't even know, like racks that would go like on the back of a truck or something, but there was like a bunch of them stacked in piles. They had all those up on top of the same trash cans. They had just everything in that area right there is up on trash cans. And it's like, and the snow's melting right there. And there's like, it looks like there's like a broken road, like it's like
Right.
gray rubble. It looks like,
The only reason I could think of why you would like stack things on top of a 55-gallon drum is if there was going to be like a lot of water or like mud or some kind of mud flow.
Maybe that's why.
In Antarctica at
I
any
know, that
time of
doesn't make
year?
sense either. Yeah. And it's at the shoreline too, like the ocean's right there. So I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know.
They're
I don't
doing
get
all
it
kinds
either.
of weird
It's
stuff
very
down there,
strange.
man. And let me tell you what, okay, Antarctica, there's a part of Antarctica that looks, I'm telling you, it looks just like the Grand Canyon, so bad. It's so bad. It's like, and there's parts, the rock is like, it's striped. You know how some of the rock is like striped in the Grand Canyon, or that's like the layers are different color or whatever. Well, this part, the top layer is like ivory. It looks like a cast, like something that built out of something different, sitting on like a dirt base. And like the base of them is like very graded, like super, like pyramidal type grading that you see in like Mexico or Central America in their pyramid mountains, or like how on Mingus Mountain, you know how it's graded at the top, like how it's like stepped. It's like that. It's just, I don't know. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on in Antarctica. And there's also a dragon, guys, a sleeping dragon under the ice.
And to Donald, I don't. These were not like drill rigs. These were like standard, like kind of cranes to pick up larger things. It's why the hell would you put that on top of 55-gallon drums? One drum.
And then there's a field of antennas, guys, too, right by there. Like a field.
The antennas I could sort of understand, because one, you're at the South Pole, and that's the only way you're going to communicate with the rest of the planet is through like some kind of giant radio antenna array. Plus, there are multiple atmospheric experiments they do.
Right. It looked a lot. It reminded me of like HARP is what
that I was about to say that very thing. It's like think HARP. It is the HARP array. The whole design behind the HARP thing, because it got blown way out of proportion, is they were heating up parts of the ionosphere to bounce shortwave radio signals. So you can, because you can. If you're on a shortwave radio, you can bounce it off of the upper ionosphere where it bounces off the inside of it, and that's how you can communicate with the other side of the world. If you heat it up, you're making it a little like more reflective, so that you can get more data through there instead of just an analog signal saying, "Hello, Watson, come here, I need you." Like that was a telephone reference.
But they did figure out, though, that they can manipulate the weather as a side effect of that, because I've seen the patents.
Well, they're literally microwaving the sky, so
right.
Yeah, you're going to affect the environment. So for sure,
right. And like if they're doing this in Antarctica, it is super apparent to me, at least I think so, that the ice is kind of. Which I think is totally normal, by the way, in my opinion. I think it's just a cycle that's normal that happens on Earth. But it looks like the ice is melting a lot because it's just revealing a lot. Like if you go, everybody should check this out because you can totally see it yourself. But when you zoom in, there'll be like snow, and you keep zooming in, and the snow will start to like disappear. And there's some weird looking rock there too. It just looks very interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I think there's a whole lot of land that might in the future be appearing. The more they can fight over, yay!
And they will.
I know. I know. Well, they have a treaty. Huh?
I said, not on my timeline. My timeline's going to have no fighting.
Yeah, not a busy timeline. In Antarctica,
right, well,
that's where the known world people play grab ass like on the map, huh, Susie, in your timeline?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
So, grab it.
Everybody, I was gonna just round up the show because it's getting late, and I wanted to thank everybody for coming in and entertaining our questions and being cool. I love you all, and I love you guys. So thank you for joining me. And
everybody, thank you.
We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night.
No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. No one ever sees me, I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me, I'm losing every battle.
Hello.